Rain fell in thin silver lines as Daniel rushed across the hospital parking lot, chasing 3 identical coats that darted ahead of him. His 7-year-old triplets laughed, ignoring his calls. Visiting their injured teacher had seemed simple. Now they disappeared through the wrong entrance, automatic doors sighing shut behind them. He hurried inside, apologizing to a nurse while scanning corridors. The girls turned a corner and vanished into a dim wing marked Oncology. Daniel followed, heart pounding, shoes squeaking on polished floors. He pushed open a half-closed door and stopped. The room smelled softly of antiseptic and fading flowers tonight. On the bed lay a pale woman, tubes looping around her arms like fragile vines. She looked surprised, then amused, as 3 little girls climbed onto chairs beside her. "We're sorry," Lily whispered. "We were looking for room 12. The woman smiled. "You found someone who needed visitors more today." Daniel stammered apologies, but the woman waved them away. Her name was Sarah, and she explained she rarely received guests. The girls asked endless questions, showing drawings and braids. Daniel watched color return faintly to her cheeks. For first time since wife's death, he saw kindness soften grief within him. They visited the correct room afterward, yet the triplets insisted on returning daily. Sarah awaited them, weaker each afternoon but brighter in spirit. She taught them paper cranes and quiet patience. Daniel brought coffee and stories about repairing engines. Laughter echoed where machines dominated, surprising nurses who scheduled rounds daily. One evening, Sarah confessed her illness was terminal. The girls fell silent, clutching her hands. Daniel felt familiar helplessness, but stayed, listening. She feared dying alone, she said, more than death itself. He promised she wouldn't be alone tomorrow or any day they were allowed to enter that room together. Winter passed into spring. Hospital gardens bloomed, and Sarah was moved to a brighter suite for palliative care. The girls decorated her windows with stickers and sunshine drawings. Daniel cooked soup in a borrowed kitchen downstairs. Sometimes he read novels aloud, and sometimes they simply watched sunlight cross blankets quietly. One afternoon, she asked Daniel why he never removed his wedding ring. He admitted he wore it out of guilt, not loyalty, afraid forgetting meant betrayal. Sarah held his hand gently. "Love isn't a single room," she whispered. "It's a house that grows." The words lingered after visiting hours ended. Months later, Sarah improved unexpectedly, responding to treatments doctors had tried cautiously. She walked slowly beside the girls along corridors, laughing at their races. Daniel noticed hope, terrifying and beautiful. They celebrated with cupcakes in the cafeteria. Nurses took photos, saying the children brought life stronger than medicine to hallways. Though still fragile, Sarah was discharged to a small apartment near Daniel's home. He installed railings and painted walls with the girls. They carried her groceries proudly. Evenings turned into shared dinners and homework sessions. Neighbors assumed she was family already, and Daniel realized the assumption felt quietly, wonderfully right. On the anniversary of their accidental meeting, the triplets organized a picnic in the park. They insisted Daniel dress nicely and blindfolded Sarah until they reached the lake. There, under a tree, Daniel knelt awkwardly, hands shaking. He asked, not because she was dying, but because she was living beside. Sarah cried, laughing through tears, and said yes before he finished speaking. The girls cheered loud enough to startle ducks across the water. Passers-by clapped. Daniel slipped a simple ring onto her finger. For the first time, his memories of loss and his hopes for tomorrow stood peacefully together last. They married quietly months later in the hospital chapel, honoring the place where their story began. Nurses attended, bringing flowers from the garden Sarah once watched through glass. The girls walked her aisle proudly. Daniel realized miracles rarely looked dramatic. Sometimes they were gentle routines repeated until love felt permanent. A year after that chaotic chase, Daniel returned to the same corridor carrying anniversary balloons. The triplets ran ahead again, but this time he followed calmly. Sarah waited in room 12, healthy and smiling, reviewing volunteer schedules. She now comforted patients the way strangers once comforted her during uncertain beginnings. He watched his daughters hand out crayons to children, while Sarah adjusted pillows and whispered encouragement. Doctors greeted her warmly. Daniel understood the wrong room had been the right doorway into a different life. Grief had not disappeared. It had simply widened, making space for another story to grow alongside. That evening, they ate cake in the cafeteria, where they had once celebrated fragile hope. The girls insisted on retelling the story to anyone listening. Sarah squeezed Daniel's hand beneath the table. He realized destiny sometimes arrives disguised as children running through the wrong door on an ordinary rainy afternoon. Later, after bedtime, Daniel found Sarah folding tiny paper cranes at the kitchen table. She said she kept them for future hospital visits, tokens for scared families. He helped carefully. Silence felt comfortable now. The man who once feared loving again discovered his heart had grown stronger through sharing vulnerability. On quiet nights, they visited the rooftop garden overlooking city lights. The triplets counted airplanes while Sarah leaned against Daniel's shoulder. She often whispered gratitude for a mistake that changed everything. He would answer that love had chased them, not the other way around, and they laughed softly together always. Years later, the girls barely remembered the teacher they originally meant to see. Instead, they remembered a pale woman smiling bravely and inviting them to stay. That memory shaped their compassion. Daniel framed the hospital admission bracelet from that day, hanging it beside wedding photos in their living room proudly. Sometimes Daniel still walked past room 12 alone, just to remember. He would smile at the closed door, grateful for chaos, children, and second chances. A single wrong turn had given him family again, teaching him that love rarely begins with certainty. It begins with someone needing company unexpectedly there.